Hello and welcome to another edition of Clifton's Clicks, your cliff notes to the cosmos. And I am your host, Clifton Smith. Thank you for joining me today. And I'm going to pause for structured water. Delicious as always. And remember, it's physically structured and energetically charged with high vibrations that resonate with my internal water, as well as it creates the ability for my water, for the water to be absorbed by me. So I thank you all for all your feedback, and I take it with open arms. And one of the things that I am my intention today is to be succinct, clear, and be able to identify specific takeaways and applicability of my message. So as always, I greet you with love, respect, appreciation, and motivation. And let's get into it. So one of the audience members had a question, a clarifying point as to why do I not eat eggs, and what is the question about milk? And this all relates to what's known as biomemory, which is the ability to store memory inside the actual flesh. And when we look at our fascia, the interconnective tissue that holds our organs and muscles in place, that is actually the area that stores trauma. And when we have trauma that we don't release, then it actually creates small little knots in our fascia, or not really knots, but they're little balls or things that need to be released. And this was something at my previous company that we were helping clients do, is release that trauma. Well, when you eat eggs actually store the DNA and the biomemory of the mother hen. And so if that mother hen is being kept up in a coop or being mistreated, misguided, that trauma gets passed on into that egg. And remember that DNA is passed down intergenerationally for up to 13 generations. And so even if the egg comes from a hen who is a free-range hen, it may have been from a ancestor who was actually cooped up in hens. And there's many industrial farming practices that keep these chickens cooped up in unsanitary conditions, and that kind of trauma and stress gets passed on into the egg, which you eat. Another consideration as to why not eggs is the fact that eggs are one of the most highly food sensitive. It is one of the top 5 foods that people have food sensitivity to. And so even though you may not have a very clear reaction over the course of time, you do actually develop a food sensitivity, or you might develop a food sensitivity without really knowing. And a lot of people we tested at the clinic had a minor food sensitivity to eggs. Beyond all that, and of course these are just various levels and understanding of why you would avoid eggs, including the fact that it's a product of another animal, which vegans inherently avoid. One thing to note from the vibrational awareness perspective is that it is a clear exploitation of feminine energy. And what I mean by that is it's a clear way in which society, or you as the individual, are consuming a product that is specifically a female energy creation. So that's not to say inherently it is off. It is simply saying that we have created a structure and a system in which the feminine energy that's embodied in the female egg is what's constantly being consumed in the eggs. And what that does is that creates an imbalance with our own internal masculine-feminine energy balance. And so for a Aquarian age, the age of feminine energy and this desire for the workplace and the world to be more in touch with their feminine side, when you consume eggs, it can actually create challenges within yourself to get in touch with your femininity. If you are a man, being in touch with your feminine side, and if you are a woman, there is some repression that may happen or additional processing that has to happen on the inner work side and the vibrational side in order for you to get to your core own issue, right? So you have to clear the biomemory of the food that you eat. You have to clear the energetic masculine feminine imbalance of the eggs that you consume as well. So that's one. The other question is about milk, yogurt, cheese, and dairy. Once again, if the cows themselves are created, are held in confinement and being given many antibiotics or given a diet that is explicitly exploitative of the cow, as in making it consume more milk than it needs to, or hooking it up to very inhumane machines, then that gets passed down in the biomemory of the milk. And for example, a mother who feeds their child breast milk passes the cortisol and other hormones and chemicals through the mother's milk. So we know that this happens from a human-to-human perspective, and it also happens within specific types of chimps, in which high cortisol mother's milk has created issues, psychological issues for their offspring. A study came out of Harvard, and the other aspect of the milk is that the nutrition itself, if the cow is not being fed properly, then that is an issue as well, because the nutrients don't get passed on through the mother's milk. That being said, if one treats the cow with utmost respect and has an incredible amount of freedom, then that vibratory energy that is encapsulated and experienced by the cow in what might be considered a cow sanctuary or goshala, the byproduct of that is actually incredibly healing and nutritious. So the milk is an offspring of the energetic experience of the cow. And the same thing holds true in terms of the leveraging of the cow, leveraging the female side, the feminine energy. However, it is from a supportive and caring perspective, rather than specifically a exploitative factor. So purposely keeping birds in cages for their eggs, purposely keeping cows in confinement for their milk, or the exploitative side. The other aspects and the sort of gray area that this may be in is in the way in which the cows and chickens are raised. And then you get into the discussion of biomemory and how they are raised and how they are treated over the course of several generations. And then you also have the vibrational energy of the food that you are consuming, or the animal byproduct that you are consuming. Is it an exploitation of feminine reproduction? Is it a nurturing side of femininity, etc.? And so these all have vibrational aspects to it that need to be considered when you make your decision to go plant-based, or how you decide to go and determine your own dietary guidelines. So just keep in mind the biomemory that you're consuming and the vibration that you are also exposing yourself and your body to. And the next step is I was reading up on some on quantum mechanics and especially a concept called supercausality, which I'll go into later on in the show. But as I was reading the study, it became very clear that the way it's written it is very hard to comprehend for the average person, and even for myself, I had a really hard time, and it's not something that you would pick up on the checkout counter at the grocery store. It took me like 30 minutes just to get through 3 pages, and I'm sure some of the way I talk might be like that, with eyes glazed over at times. And so the challenge with that is that maybe there's a good message in it, but it's not being received, right? So it's not just about the truth and validity of the message as it's being told, it's also how it's being received. And one of the beautiful things about vibrational awareness as a paradigm for understanding your conscious ascension and growth and observation of the world, your upgraded operating software, is that it leverages intuitive intelligence rather than strictly cognitive intelligence. So a lot of the things that we are talking about, yes, can be measured, and there is a numerical aspect to what I say high vibratory and low vibratory, but we can also then start to make rationalizations and conclusions on our own through our own intuition as to what is high vibratory and low vibratory. So that way we can use this working model in more than just what's being proven in a scientific capacity. And what's great too is that as technology and the ability to monitor and measure and observe in a numerical capacity grows, so our ability to document our observations grows, we'll be able to provide even more and more hard scientific data to support the intuitive understanding that is the vibrational aware state of being. And then another thing that I want to talk about is that vibrational awareness as a paradigm is similar in nature to any other framework that is taught or shared. That at a certain point, it does help provide an explanation and an understanding for us to conduct our day to day, as well as organize our thoughts and be able to create value for ourselves in society. However, at a certain spiritual level, just like any observation or rationalization or generalization, vibrational awareness also needs to be dropped for us to just simply exist. And so I want to be clear about that as well, is that ultimately this is a tool to help you build and understand things. But when it comes to getting to a certain level of spiritual growth and enjoying the present moment, the whole concept of vibrational awareness itself needs to be dropped. Just as everything ultimately is delusion, vibrational awareness in its entirety is a kind of delusion that needs to be dropped for us to fully appreciate our existence. So moving on to a fun topic. So when I enter into altered states, or when we are talking about deep internal trauma or past life trauma, or even doing power manifestations like moving coconuts, one of the beautiful reasons why vibrational awareness is a great paradigm for this is that we will experience fluctuations of frequency in our environment, such as specific old school light bulbs flickering is one thing that constantly happens. If we're talking about really highly intense concepts and understandings, the connection over FaceTime or over a phone can actually get crackled, and our voices actually sound a bit different. And so what's happening is we are exuding so much energy and high vibration that the normal parameters at which we build our technology is being interfered with. And so one of the things that you may experience by entering into a higher vibrational state and interacting with others in a higher vibrational state, is that you might get certain indicators from your environment that are not necessarily the norm in a normal vibratory state, such as lights flickering, the connection with FaceTime being disturbed, and calls and voices being distorted. This has happened on several occasions, and it is not simply just a technical glitch. It is an emanation of such strong, intense vibrations that it disrupts the technology that we've built. And then finally, supercausality and painted picture. So one of the theories that is being presented and started to be adopted in the quantum mechanics space is this idea of supercausality. And what this is a explanation that we live in a world that science normally confines to a linear time pattern. That is, you have now and in the future, or the past and then the present, and we live in a world of cause and effect. What supercausality explains or presents are certain phenomena and observations that are scientifically evident, in which it presents the potential and need for science to observe things from a different linear perspective of time, rather than cause, time, and then effect, cause bringing in effect, but rather that an effect happens in the present, and the supercausality, the cause of it, actually happens in the future. And so things like how homeopathy can be structured is one such example of understanding why and how homeopathy can work. And the argument is that homeopathy actually helps cure or helps individuals overcome specific issues that it claims it can do. And using the placebo effect as the rationale behind why homeopathy works is not a valid enough scientific reason as to demonstrating why homeopathy works, because it works to a statistically significant difference than what general placebo effect would do. And therefore, if homeopathy works, the scientific community has to find an explanation and accept that homeopathy works. And so what supercausality does is it brings up the option that we should look at the cause being in the future point in time that draws the current present moment towards a reality in which that person is healed. So of course the person takes the homeopathy now, and there will be a version of reality, or a iteration of reality in which that person is healed, and is healed because of taking that homeopathic remedy. And so this simply infuses the thought current into the scientific community, that we should expand our observations of of scientific exploration to allow for there to be a uniqueness in how we perceive time, that being that we can start to study things from a future-oriented time perspective, in which the cause of the result that we're looking at is actually in the future. And this demonstrates itself in quantum mechanics as well, with the butterfly effect and things of that nature. How you can apply this is simply similar to the law of attraction. It's something that I call the painted picture exercise. It's where you think about yourself in a future state, being, sensing, and owning whatever it is that you are desiring to have, and feeling what it feels like, and describing what it's like to be in that moment, or to have that thing, and create this sort of painted picture, if you will, of what it is you're intending to have. And by being in that state, in that vibratory state, what you're doing is you're tuning yourself and your frequency towards the direction of actually having that, which then pulls you vibrationally into a reality in which you actually do have it, which therefore you are putting yourself in the future, which then creates the cause, because you are emanating and experiencing what it's like to have it in the future, but you're experiencing it in the now. So that way your body starts to resonate and attract that actual reality, which is a lot of what the law of attraction in terms of visualization is all about. And so supercausality, yes, it may be applied to homeopathy. It is also applied to the future you wish to live by experiencing the vibrations and the feelings that you will experience and feel once you've had it, but experiencing that now, which starts your process of actually attracting it. So I hope this has been helpful. I appreciate all your feedback and all your questions, wherever it's at. I want to make sure that I develop relevant pieces of content that address many different layers of reality. Today I talked about the reason why to avoid eggs and why milk at Goshalas is accepted, where the vibrational awareness, I talk about how vibrational awareness really taps into our intuitive intelligence, which allows us to make rationalizations and conclusions ahead of science needing to prove it, that holds true to the upgraded paradigm rather than a scientific model, which is very challenging and cumbersome to actually take a direct application of into your life. I talked about how vibrational awareness is, once again, a paradigm and upgrading operating software that ultimately itself needs to be dropped in order for us to fully be in the present. However, it can be a useful tool to understand our reality and to create what it is we wish to live. I talked about some of the unique things that happen during entering these entered states, which really demonstrate that it's a frequency issue, including the effects to lights, connections to FaceTime, and sounds over telephones. And then I talked about the applicability of supercausality, of causes that actually exist in the future and the effect we actually feel now, and how we can use that to create the painted picture, and how that aligns with the law of attraction that is so often professed. So with this, I thank you for joining and watching me, and I say goodbye with my utmost love, respect, appreciation, and gratitude. And please, if there's any questions, please put them in the comments or send me an email or a message. I love receiving your feedback, and if things don't make sense or if you have questions, concerns, I'm here to help, here to enrich. So please let me know what other topics you would like me to cover, and any questions you might have. And we can go as grounded as what to eat or what time to sleep or wake up, and we can go as cosmic as channeling aliens and things of that nature, and anything in between. I'm here for you, and I look forward to our continued conversation. Thank you so much. Once again, I am Clifton Smith, and this is Clifton's Clicks. Have a great day. Bye.